Everybody, it's Chris here with an economic update. It's the first week of March 2025, and in the past 45 to 60 days, we've seen a lot of federal policies that could have a great effect on the market, both the rental market and the buy-sell market. First, we've got federal layoffs. The Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, also known as Doge, could potentially lay off up to 300,000 federal workers in calendar year 2025. While a lot of that concentration will be in the Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland area, it'll absolutely affect workers nationwide. Some of the things that you see if these mass layoffs go through could be we could see foreclosures on homes from workers that can't afford to pay their mortgages. We could see an increase in homes for sale as some of these workers look for alternative housing accommodations. And we could see limited buyers or sales as less people with income look to buy new homes. So the federal layoffs are the first thing that we could see that affect the housing market. A lot of these affected employees could end up either becoming renters or staying renters, and that's how it might affect the rental market. The second thing we've heard an awful lot about recently has been tariffs. And there's three countries that are going to see the greatest effect from the tariffs: Canada, Mexico, and China. The one that could potentially have the greatest effect on the housing market are our neighbors to the north in Canada. Canada is one of the largest exporters to the U.S. of lumber. And effective now, the beginning of March, we're seeing 25% tariffs on Canadian products, including lumber, to the United States. So that means if a house is getting built right now in March or the spring of 2025, the lumber package, which is one of the largest expenses of the house, will automatically have a 25% increase on the price of that lumber, which will have a dramatic effect on the final finishing price of those homes. This will affect the price, as I just mentioned, but it'll also affect supply, as it's less likely that as many homes will get built with the spike in lumber packages. A lot of people are anticipating that the tariffs between these countries may not, hopefully may not be long-term as they get negotiated out. So if I was a builder, I would probably, before I ordered another lumber package, I would probably consider waiting to see if these tariffs go away before I bought my next round of lumber packages for a new neighborhood or a townhouse complex, for example. Mortgage rate dilemma. So where are mortgage rates now, the first week of March 2025? Well, they're still right around 7%, maybe just a little bit below 7%, but they haven't changed much in the past year. And these higher mortgage rates continue to make the already expensive homes, makes the monthly mortgage that much more expensive, as a lot of potential buyers continue to sit on the sidelines in anticipation that mortgage rates will hopefully come down in the future. The Federal Reserve, which controls the federal fund rate, which indirectly controls the mortgage rates, has stated that based on current inflation in this country, it's unlikely we'll see much more than maybe a 0.25% interest rate drop, if anything at all. And while what they estimate typically at the beginning of the year doesn't always hold exactly true based on how inflation goes, it's still a pretty good gauge that we're not going to see it's unlikely that we're going to see a several point drop in mortgage rates in the next year. So we'll probably expect to see where mortgage rates are today. They'll probably be pretty similar this spring, this summer, and this fall in the housing market. It's going to affect supply and demand, as more people who live in houses that had lower mortgage rates are going to be unlikely to sell those houses and give up those lower mortgage rates unless they absolutely have to buy a new house with a higher price and a higher mortgage rate. So that's absolutely going to affect supply, less on the market, and then of course demand, those buyers on the sideline still waiting in anticipation of someday a lower mortgage rate that'll drop the house prices. Let's talk about the role of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, currently two government agencies that buy mortgages from the banks. So when you go to Wells Fargo or Bank of America or your mortgage broker to get a mortgage on the home that you're buying, the government agencies of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will almost immediately buy those mortgages from the banks. This allows the banks to get the liability off their books a little bit faster. It allows them to lend money to slightly riskier customers, knowing that they're going to be able to get the mortgages off their books very, very quickly. There's talk right now in the government of taking Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, that are government agencies that are occasionally taking losses on some bad loans or bad mortgages, and making them private companies, or at least semi-private companies, a hybrid of public and private like they used to be before 2008. If this were to happen, there's speculation that if they were privately owned, it's much less likely that a privately owned Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac would make speculative, riskier mortgages, is probably a better way to say that, on the market. And this absolutely could affect who qualifies for a mortgage. So if you don't have a mid or a top tier credit score, and you're looking to get a mortgage right now with maybe a little bit of a damaged credit score, it may only get harder to get that mortgage if Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac get privatized. Now, of the three things that we've talked about so far, people consider to be maybe the least likely to happen or have a lot of red tape to get through before it ever goes private again. It's certainly nothing anybody expects to happen in the very near future. It's just part of the conversation of the current administration, who certainly seems to be moving fast and making a lot of the promises they've made, make them happen very, very quickly. So I'd keep an eye on it. I think from a buying and a renting point of view, if mortgages are harder to get, if some rental customers, for instance, are working up and building up their credit and their savings to be able to buy a house, and they're just barely getting into that tier right now where they can get approved for a mortgage, if this does get privatized and it's harder and that tier, that bar gets raised or elevated, I think it means that more renters will stay renters longer, or more people will only be able to rent due to the inability to get mortgages. So I think that particular policy could have an effect on the rental market in that capacity. And then, of course, it'll lower the demand, because if there's less people that are able to get approved for a mortgage, the demand on houses will go down. Let's talk about deportation and the housing market. So another real hot topic that's been in the news a lot lately is deportations. How could deportations affect the housing market? Well, one of the first ways is a lot of the people that are most likely to be affected by deportations are some of the same people that are actually helping to build these houses. If there's less people readily available to build these houses, then that of course means supply will come down. So imagine if you've got the lumber packages we talked about just went up 25%, you've got less people to build these houses. How fast do you think these houses in these neighborhoods are going to actually get built? So these things could have a great effect on supply. And then of course, on the demand side, if large numbers of people are deported, then of course, those are the same people that are going to rent. Those are the same people that are going to buy. The demand side of both the rental market and the for sale market potentially could go down. So that's one way that deportations could affect the housing market. So final thoughts, there's a lot of policies right now. If you pay close attention, some of them are still in their infancy stages or just in being talked about at the moment, or even the ones that are being enacted haven't necessarily hit large scale just yet. Of course, like I said at the beginning of this, it's only been 45 to 60 days. So there's a lot of obstacles, and a lot of these policies are trying to be reversed through the court systems. There's a lot of things getting in the way of 300,000 federal workers losing their jobs, for example. Will take a lot of time if it happens at all. So I think current events in the news is something that's especially important this year, if you can stomach it, to continue to watch and keep up to date on, because I think a lot of it is going to affect the day market of what we're going to see in the rental market and what we're going to see as far as the supply and demand side of the for sale market. I'll keep you guys up to date in future videos. If you have any questions about this or just want to chat about it, feel free to reach out to me. Have a great day.